Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Volume 201. We are in the next era of Marvel Alliance, whatever that means.
I think it just means the 200s, but that's me.
Well, it probably just means Madam Web is coming in, and
it's getting close. We're just a couple weeks away.
I mean, we can't forget that Madam Web is the blueprint. All will be revealed on what that means. The blueprint in 2 weeks. What is Madam Web the blueprint of?
We'll find out. We'll ask us that question after we've seen it.
Oh. That question will be asked many times. It may be one of our most anticipated episodes for our listeners to see exactly what's going on.
Brock in the chat, it's webbing time. I still like it's Madam time the best, but
yeah, but that has some other connotations. I don't know if I want to subscribe
that's true.
to that.
That's a good point.
How are you doing this week, Brent?
Good. Can't really complain too much. Excited for the upcoming weekend. Not as excited as I am for next weekend, but because there's a game I'm going to watch next week and I'm excited about. But no, it's good. What about you?
Big game, as it were.
It is the big game. That's right. The big, which technically is what we're supposed to call it, the big game. In fact, I'm gonna edit the particular question we had about that for later to the big game.
Yeah, we don't want to get demonetized or anything like that.
But what about you? How are you doing?
Good. Legs pretty much healed. I have a little pain every once in a while if I twist it the wrong way or things like that. But yeah, so thankfully,
good.
It was just a temporary injury, but definitely gave me a little bit of a scare. So I'll be kind of changing up some routines a little bit. But yeah, so back to normal, and good to be back here. And yeah, we got some fun rumors to talk about.
Well, rumors is right. So, I guess get the let's get the standard stuff out of the way, and we'll get to them.
Yeah, let's get to it. So, we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our $1 tiers of tip jar to say, hey, we think we're doing a good job, and then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including our recently wrapped-up show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch. 24 episodes up there right now, and Brent and I are ready to talk about the next phase of Marvel Alliance Patreon. So we have decided that we are going to do a next series of movies, but we're not going to call this We Can Watch This All Day. I did not talk about to Brent about the title of this. I just decided to do it, made executive decision on that one. The title of our new Patreon series will be called Tales from the House of X.
It fits. I like it. We'll roll with it for sure.
Yes, Tales from the House of X. So what does that mean? Well, if you haven't already figured out at that point what it's about, we'll be watching our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. Not all of them. Brent and I are very particular about that. Our favorites.
We basically each had ones we would veto, and between that, we got a few that are out.
Yes. So the ones we'll be watching in this order are Deadpool, Deadpool 2, X-Men, X2, X-Men First Class, and X-Men Days of Future Past, both cuts.
Yeah, and basically the Deadpool movies are first to make sure we have time to get them in prior to Deadpool 3 coming out. So, especially because, for me, I've got some traveling I'll be doing this summer. And I know you've got some traveling coming up for you as well. And so with the Deadpool movie, they'll be first. But the movies you listed, those are all fun watches. So I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, so yeah, we're sorry if some of the ones that you were hoping us to review are on there. Yeah, Brent and I are going to be a little particular on this one, and we're just going to do our favorites of this. Those are it. Brent, are we doing one this month, or we're going to start next month?
Probably start next month at this point, realistically.
All right. So we're going to start. So again, patrons, if you want to be the first on the listening ground of that, we will do what we normally do, record at the beginning of the month and drop at the end of the month. So at the end of March, you will get our first of the Tales from the House of X with looking at Deadpool. So It's gonna be a lot of fun. And
Yes.
with we also want to plug also our other brethren over at DC Alliance doing their DC films through the years. We've got Jake and Clay looking at Marvel Snap, Katie looking at her comics, Star Wars comics canon, and Joe's Multiverse Minute. So we got a lot of great back content out there. So check that out as well. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network to catch all the stuff and be a part of our Patreon. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Got a new pre-orders up at that point. We've got the reprint of the finale of Avengers by Busiek and Perez. 3 covers coming at you with that one. That volume will contain the Kang Dynasty. We've also got first time ever in Omni format, Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. 2 covers of that. Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 4, first time in print. Got a lot of Omnis. Extreme X-Men Volume 2, the conclusion of Claremont's return to X-Men at that point. So a lot of great stuff. But if you want to purchase any of those, use the code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, and let them know you are a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right. So, yes, always plugging. As always, we've got our listener survey is still live. Check out the show notes below. You let us know what you're feeling, the good, the bad, what you like. We've got a few questions for Marvel Alliance with there and a few of the other shows at that point. Again, we appreciate it. We do read it. We do take your feedback to heart, and check that out and let us know your feedback. All right, I think that's about it for right now, Brent, with all the network stuff.
I think so.
Yes, and Andrew, I'm glad you appreciate the shirt. Right? It's definitely one of my favorites. and your comment there, Brent, when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
That's right.
All right, so we have the like I said, we got a lot of different rumors. The news this week wasn't like a lot at that point, so weeks like this, thankfully, the rumor mill is spinning. So we're going to put kind of big spoilers for this segment. If you don't want to hear any kind of, especially when it comes to our first one, anything about Captain America, Brave New World, tune out. We'll try to, give it about, what do you want to say, Brent, a couple minutes?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, so a couple minutes at that point. And so, again, the spoiler warning's going up in 3, 2, 1. So this is coming from... Can we get toast? They are saying that the reshoots for Captain America Brave New World are reportedly beginning, and they will reportedly remove the Serpent Society from the film, which would have featured them fighting Captain America, Falcon, and Isaiah Bradley in a major action sequence. So Serpent Society was going to be a big, from what I remember from all we saw in certain cast members, a big part of Brave New World.
Well, it's funny because there's history with the Serpent Society in the MCU. Back in 2014, when Civil War was announced, it was originally announced as Captain America, the Serpent Society, and then at the end of that presentation, they circled back to it and announced that now we're just kidding, it's really Civil War. I've always thought it'd be kind of fun if they did do some Serpent Society stuff, and it's like, oh great, they're going to do it in this one, and hey, we're going to get this really cool fight scene, with Sam, with Falcon, with Isaiah Bradley, and now to hear that, of course it's rumored, so take it with a grain of salt, but that there's at least this one rumor that it's not going to be there. Oh, that's a shame, especially Isaiah Bradley. That would have been fun to see him in action.
Especially, it sounds very much like, would this have been a flashback? Would this have been Isaiah in current form? That's what I was, when I was thinking about it, flashback, but I was like, maybe not.
Well, it's hard to say, because if it's a flashback, well, how would Sam as Captain America and Falcon be there, right? But maybe it could have been one of those things where it's like a non-linear storytelling and it's cutting back and forth between an adventure of Isaiah in the past and Sam and Joaquin in the present. But my guess is they would have all been together. My hope is they would have all been together, because if nothing else, it'd be fun to see Sam and Isaiah standing side by side.
Especially just seeing, the dynamics between all of them. I was more happy to hear that Isaiah was going to be in this movie. I hope that Isaiah is not completely cut out of this movie because I love the character. One of my favorites parts from Falcon and Winter Soldier, bringing Isaiah Bradley into the MCU officially. So that I hope is not total. His character is totally not written out, but we have heard a lot that due to the, you know, Iger kind of reining in not only cost but also making a big push for we're going to tell better stories, we're going to tell quality over quantity. You know, again, this could be a lot of good stuff. But the other part of this is saying Rosa Salazar's Diamondback might still survive the new version of the film. So, you know, is the Serpent Society just going to be a more of a quieter kind of thing, a quieter kind of idea at that point?
Could be planting a seed for a future installment with the Serpent Society, but I don't really see them as someone that like you need a ton of buildup for. Like, oh, evil organization, you know, like you don't need a lot of seeds there. But if you do have Diamondback in it, she's a member of the Serpent Society. There's still an opportunity for them to be included somehow.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Every time I hear, even in the comic Serpent Society, I can't help but not think Cobra from GI Joe. I'm
Absolutely,
sorry, but
yes.
I mean that was when Cobra was first for me before I even knew what the Serpent Society was with Captain America. So it's kind of hard not to say like, are you discount Cobra?
Discount Cobra would probably be an appropriate way to look at it for sure.
Well, and a lot of the different things with what's going on with I think this movie is going to be one of those when we finally get it is like what was cut out, like what major things were cut out. Like that's going to be an interesting story if it's going to be basically kind of this long reshoot process that rumors are going around and changing a script. So there's definitely a story that we're only going to hear through the quote unquote leakers and scoopers, and how much are we going to believe, how much was true, how much is just trying to push a narrative that's not true. I don't know. You know, that's the thing. Unlike a lot of things, we're probably never going to get the full story of what was really happening. Not. So, all right. So, spoiler warning off at that point. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. Next part, something that I know when this came about, I know most of us were very excited and hope it's true. It's coming from Daniel RPK. A new Iron Fist project is reportedly in works at Marvel Studios, and not just any kind of idea of Iron Fist. A new Iron Fist is possibly going to arrive with a female lead taking on the moniker. Finn Jones could return as Danny Rand, but won't be the main Iron Fist going forward. My goodness, Brent, are we finally going to get Colleen Wing back into the MCU as our Iron Fist? Please, don't tease me. Don't give me hope. I need to know.
Look, I haven't been shy, especially with you guys in the chat, about my annoyance with the amount of things that RPK has been throwing out there lately. It feels like he's just got 5 scoops every single day. But this is one that I hope he is right on, because especially if it is Colleen Wing, you know, if it's a female lead, and with what we know they've done with Daredevil, they're certainly not, you know, hiding away from bringing back people who were on those shows. It would be amazing to pick up where it left off with her, because if you know, just in case you haven't seen it, I guess spoiler warning, but she basically had the Iron Fist at the end of season 2 and was able to focus it through her sword. Pretty badass looking, you know, but we didn't get to see that much of it. Add Finn Jones as Danny Rand, but not the main character. I actually really like that idea. You keep the continuity, you keep it there, you take the story in a different way. This sounds awesome. I hope it happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a new Iron Fist in Marvel 616, so why not? It's not a female, but again, the idea of the moniker of Iron Fist has never been like it is just Danny Rand. You know, there's a lineage, there's a legacy, it passes down, so why not? I mean, yes, we've been now saying that the Netflix Marvel is now canon in the MCU. Well, we did leave off. I thought it was a really cool, like, tease at the end of season 2 of Iron Fist. I mean, I was like, oh, I want to see this. That got me more jazzed for Iron Fist than the first 2 seasons ever did.
And you know what? I'm on record as saying like I don't hate the first either season the way a lot of other people do. I think season 2 was a pretty solid improvement over season
Agreed.
1. It is worth noting where Danny's story ended was also pretty cool at the end of season
agree.
2, and I wouldn't mind seeing that picked up either. But you know, if I had to pick, if I can only have one as the focus, I'll take Colleen Wing every day. So like I said, I hope there's some accuracy to this. And like you mentioned a minute ago, Iron Fist, it's a mantle character. It's built-in legacy character. It'd be cool to see, you know, someone new take it up.
And especially where during the season, which was cool, was seeing like the black and white footage of like other Iron Fists out there. You know, I like seeing that kind of that history part of building a universe without it at that point. But people's like, oh, Iron Fist only this, is saying, you know what, Iron Fist can be anyone, and you know, it's Colleen's time to kind of do this, and I think it'd be a really good time for us to kind of change up. And again, nothing says that we can't have Danny in there. Nothing says that Finn Jones can't come back. We're just gonna have to see.
Yeah, and you know, if Finn Jones was back, you know, we'd get some sort of action and stuff with him. But again, hopefully improved over what he did in the earlier installment. But it's an exciting rumor for sure.
And this one, you know, I always say that you're my numbers guy, you're my budget guy at that point. So I'll let you take the lead with what we found out from Forbes about Echo's budget.
Yeah, I was really interested when I saw this. Apparently, the reported budget of Echo is only, I'm going to say only here, only $40 million. Now, that still may sound like a lot, especially for a 5-episode show, but it's worth noting it is by far, like it is under a third the cost of so many other projects that we've seen from Marvel Studios on Disney Plus. Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and both the seasons of Loki were all in the 140 to 150 million range, right? And then She-Hulk at 225, WandaVision 225, Secret Invasion 212. We've ragged on that. I've definitely ragged on that before. Falcon and Winter Soldier was also 150. I don't know if I mentioned that one, but WandaVision at 225, they got their money's worth out of that one, right? That was a phenomenon. They got it for that one, I'm sure. Secret Invasion, definitely not. And honestly, She-Hulk, probably not there either. They need to get these budgets under control. These budgets are outrageous. They're not going to be able to recoup the cost on most of these without having WandaVision level of just audience engagement, right? Without doing that, hitting that extreme popularity of something, they're not going to be able to recoup the costs on these. They got to go more. I would say the 150 needs to be the absolute ceiling, but really they should probably be looking for under 100. And whenever at all possible, go closer to that Echo, right? Like those are the 3 tiers. Anything north of 150, that should just be an instant deal breaker. Absolutely not. But Echo at $40 million, they seem to be really happy with how that went. It seemed to do well on both Disney Plus and Hulu. That's what we need to see more of.
Well, especially, you know, when, you know, the factors of some of this budget. I mean, yes, 225 for She-Hulk and Secret Invasion being 212 at that point. You know, we're getting movie budget for streaming shows. Like, I don't need necessarily, nor do I expect with a streaming show, TV, like that kind of budget for it at that point. And I know you had brought up in our group chat that, you know, we've got COVID protocols to kind of contend with at that point. There was another thing you brought up as well.
There's COVID protocols. There's, you know, various reshoots that are always scheduled in a part of it, but we've heard of some projects having extra reshoots beyond what they were initially planned. And it's also worth noting that like some of these shows feature people who, you know what? Let's look at Secret Invasion. I'm going to cut Secret Invasion a break. All right, I'm going to cut it a break. $212 million, absurd. Samuel L. Jackson probably cost a pretty penny. You want him to do a TV show, you want him to drop 6 episodes, that's not coming cheap. So you got to ask the question, should we do this show if Samuel L. Jackson, but Samuel L. Jackson is going to command a higher salary. So you can kind of see that, especially like shows like WandaVision, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany. But they were able to do Falcon and Winter Soldier for, well, $75 million less than WandaVision. I'm not saying it's as good as it, but Loki season 1 and 2, quite a bit less. Yes, of course, you have Tom Hiddleston, but that's pretty much it. Everybody else, as far as Marvel is concerned, isn't a major player, isn't coming back, isn't going to have the salary commands that Tom Hiddleston would be able to have in those situations. They just got to bring the budgets under control. And I say that like it's this easy thing to do. Of course, it's not. Because even though they're scaling back and even though there's everything Iger's saying about the quality over quantity type thing, when we know Bob Chapek was the other way around, basically what we need to do is, what they need to do is just really look at what characters they're putting out there, right? Moon Knight, $147 million. I feel like there's a version of Moon Knight you can tell for quite a bit less than that. Definitely closer to 100 and maybe even less. And I know Oscar Isaac probably commands a good chunk of money, but there's a version of Moon Knight that you could keep much more street level grounded while still going into the different issues that he had with that doesn't have the kaiju fight at the end, right? Like I enjoyed the kaiju fight, but it didn't. They could have gone a different way. Omari Daniels, Where Was the Werewolf by Night budget? I didn't see it. I haven't seen that one. Anyone talking about that? I'd love to know. I'd also love to know the Guardians Holiday Special, especially there because they reuse sets and they were already shooting Volume 3 and they built all of it. I'd be really curious how they would put that one on the balance sheets. But no, they were. This report was just talking about the TV shows.
Yeah, and there was one of those things where I'm glad the shows we did get, to varying degrees of like and dislike, with Secret Invasion being the lowest at that point. But even Loki just, 150 to 141 at that point. But like the quality we got with it, the question is at that point, did they aim too high and could have gotten the same quality for what they did do? I mean, Loki is our pinnacle next to WandaVision. And Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we look at both of those, all those, Loki, same budget, Falcon and Winter Soldier, similar budget, and then WandaVision just go 225. And I'm going to say that WandaVision with 225, that's a lot of COVID protocols at the height of when they were in the middle of it.
Yeah, they absolutely were. But I mean, I guess to be frank, so was Falcon and Winter Soldier, because originally Falcon and Winter Soldier was going to be ahead of WandaVision. WandaVision also had a lot of stuff they had to do with recreating the different TV formats. But I'll be curious to find out, if we ever do find out, what Daredevil's ultimate budget is going to be. Obviously, we need to know the final episode count. We can't just compare straight Daredevil at 13 episodes to Echo at 5, especially because the people like Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox, again, the salary commands are, I assume, going to be higher there than Alaqua Cox and her second project was, like she's not going to get the same budget or the same pay that they were going to get and what is effectively a fourth season of Daredevil. I'll be curious to find out. The Forbes article, when I looked it up, said it basically like something like street characters are the answer for Disney Plus. They kind of are. I don't think they should 100% do that, but right now we've had a lot of powers and less street stuff. I think they need to flip the ratio. More street characters, less of the powers.
Yeah, so it'll be good. Again, the idea of I still think they need to just kind of go with the formula similar to what James Gunn's doing with Warner Brothers, that no more than 2 movies and 2 shows a year.
I think that's probably a good idea. Are they going to do it? Well, time will tell, but it doesn't look like they're going to this year based on the number of the movies, sure, but based on the number of reported projects, probably not this year.
Yeah, and I think it's at that point when they start getting with the projects that they finally, under this new idea, they greenlight instead of inheriting what they had to,
Yeah, and because they still have like Ironheart, which was definitely under the old plans of all these sub characters or side characters getting a show. Like under the old plans, the Echo show never happens. I'm convinced of that. Like or I should say under today's, like, just the big stuff. But I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of what like the last like real project would be under that like version of them trying to do Marvel on TV. Probably Ironheart. It's going to be Ironheart. I would think that at this point Wonder Man has had enough time to shift gears. Obviously Daredevil went back to formula, and so it feels like those are probably going to be our first of, we're going to do TV the way TV, in a TV style.
Yeah. All right, and our last kind of rumor mill for right now is going to be something that I think it's the new Fantastic Four right now.
I was surprised you included it, to be honest.
I included it to kind of bring out a point. Also from Daniel RPK, Marvel Studios reportedly eyeing John David Washington for the recast of Kang. All right, I'm just gonna say this. I'm totally with Travis on this one with his Fact or Fiction. We're not gonna get a Kang recasting this year. I'm with him on this. I think that they just want to wipe a clean slate. That now, do not misread me in the sense of like we're moving away from Kang. No, I still think Kang is going to be still continue the big bad, but I think with everything that happened, not just with the real life issues, but also the issues with so far with the multiverse saga, let's just let Deadpool take the limelight with this, and then reintroduce Kang next year.
You know, if it's John David Washington, great, no complaints, no notes. I'm on board. I'm not quite there the way I am with the Fantastic Four, where I'm like, I have zero interest in knowing who's being talked about, but I'm close. I'm like, because it's going to be there. John David Washington is not going to be the last name we hear that as a front runner or being looked at for King. I would be absolutely stunned if he was. So we'll get to King when we get to King. At this point, I'm ready to focus on. Frankly, I'm ready to more focus on Fantastic Four and some other projects than I am.
Officially hearing instead of still saying they've signed. At this point, tell me when they walk out on stage in SDCC.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, we're going to take our first ad break before moving on to the next. The main news item at that point. It's a small one at that point, but interesting stuff moving along. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the Geek Ultimate Alliance network funded and all that fun stuff. We don't get to control the volume. We don't get to control how many times you hear the same ad. We apologize about that. However, we're going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down so that they don't blow out your eardrums. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So this one kind of interesting just because I didn't really see this one and didn't know the character that was going to be played, and we still don't know, but coming from Deadline, Thunderbolts, Geraldine Viswanathan joins Marvel Studios Thunderbolts, stepping in for Io Eberdri, who departs project due to scheduling. So this is an exclusive covering Deadpool. Looks to be another victim of
Deadline.
Deadline. My bad. Deadline.
I mean, it could be from Deadpool. That'd certainly make things interesting.
It would be. So, looks to be that Geraldine Viswanathan is coming on board to Thunderbolts with Io, who is departing the project due to the WGA SAG-AFTRA strikes last year. So, Viswanathan, this is the second recent addition after rumored Lewis Pullman stepping in for Stephen Yeun. Departing for also scheduling reasons. Marvel also has no comment. Now, I didn't even know, I don't think we even had any rumors of who Io was playing.
If we did, I don't remember who it was. And this report isn't saying who the character is. I will say this, Geraldine, I know nothing about her. Like, looking through IMDb, I'm like, I'm not recognizing any of these projects. Io, several projects I've seen her as a part of, and she is a fantastic actress, notably The Bear. She is fantastic. So I consider it a loss from the standpoint of I knew what I was getting with her, but for all I know, Geraldine will be fantastic as well.
Yeah. And The Bear is next up. We're almost done with Marvelous Miss Maisel, so The Bear is next on our list to watch at that point.
All right. Well, nobody send any spoilers. Let him get to those episodes. Those episodes when he gets there, and it's good. It's really good. I'll be curious to know what you think about it.
Talking about Maisel?
I'm talking about The Bear, but
The Bear. Okay,
I do love Miss Maisel. That show I've finished. I do love the Marvelous Miss Maisel though. So funny.
Yeah, we are we've got like 3 or 4 more episodes of that, but I told Aaron after all the acclaim the Bear's gotten, we've only got to catch up on 2 seasons versus 4 or 5 of Maisel. So
yeah, and season 3 is in production, so there'll be more, but you might as well watch these 2.
Yep, so that's next up. But I do know Geraldine from the movie Blockers at that point, but that's the only thing I have at that point. I did not see the Miracle Worker. Haven't seen the Beanie Bubble at that point, even though it's on Apple. It's definitely not next up. But hey, you know what? But I would really like to kind of hear the rumors of what is she supposed to be playing, because usually these kind of come with rumors of possible casting. This one came with absolutely nothing.
It just came out of, it just seemed to come out of the blue. I did hear like one reference like weeks ago that Io may end up leaving the Bear because of, but it was like it was clear they were speculating. Like
Hmm.
the screenwriters strike, the WGA strike. Well, we fully support them.
Yeah.
They absolutely threw a wrench in some of the plans for some not just Marvel but for various projects, and unfortunately it's costing us some great actors in some of these projects. Hopefully the people that step in to fill those roles will be just as great.
Yeah, and one of these, I kind of roll my eyes when I hear about it, saying, "Oh well, people just leaving Marvel projects, instead of sticking around and saying goodbye to other projects." I was like, okay, there may be something to that, but it's
But
just
it's
one of those.
newcomers.
Well, it's newcomers, but it's also, well, Steven Yeun's not a newcomer, but
He is to
it could
Marvel.
he is to
And I
Marvel,
mean to
but
Marvel. Like it would raise my
okay.
eyes way more if Sebastian Stan left Thunderbolts.
No, okay, I see what you're saying with that, but more of my point is saying that, maybe they have a little bit of integrity in saying, like, before they committed to Thunderbolts, they had other commitments that they honored first, and they're just trying to be the stand-up people that they are and saying, you know what? I made a commitment to this. I'm not going to break it. I know it'll hurt, but that's just kind of the person I want to be. So could also be that.
Absolutely.
So, but all right. So light news week, as we said, that's why we front loaded the show with a few rumors to kind of break down. So, but let's get into some listener feedback, of which we have a lot of it this week. You all came out of the woodwork for when Brent put out the Spidey signal.
Yeah, I've been putting it on both Threads and Twitter, and definitely more people are replying to it. Not a bad thing at all. Let's start with this one
Yeah.
from DC Outlaw. The homework problem is a common complaint people have, especially recently with Disney Plus shows and now the Netflix shows being in canon, including those shows. Which MCU projects would you be able to tell a new fan they can watch without having seen anything from Marvel? And which do you think would need some homework?
Well,
I have a list of ones. I have a short list of ones I think you can watch without homework, but can we just get the obvious ones out of the way? If
all
it's
right.
a first appearance, Captain America, the First Avenger, Iron Man 1, like those kind of projects, I don't think you need to have seen anything before, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to have seen anything to watch Guardians of the Galaxy or Shang-Chi or like movies like that, right? Or Daredevil season 1. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense.
Okay, so I have a short list of let's see, 6 projects that are not a character's first appearance. Like I if it's their first appearance, I wiped it out. I'm like, nope, doesn't count. That I think you could go into cold. One of them, maybe there's an asterisk next to, maybe a couple asterisks next to some of these, but I'm gonna go with it. And we'll see if you have any others. My first one is actually the first Avengers movie.
Okay.
None of
Yep,
those
that would be on
characters
my
is their
list.
first appearance, but I think they tell you who the characters are. They do a good job of it, and they don't assume prior knowledge.
Okay.
Black Widow. Black Widow, there's a lot of history to her. I think they tell you everything you need to know in that opening, fantastic, awesome credit scene. Everything else, like they give you what you need. She's on the run. Okay, like it doesn't matter why. You just have to know she's on the run. The Punisher. Not, I mean, yes, we got his origin stuff in there, which is why I put an asterisk next to it. But we also got a good chunk of it in Daredevil season 2, and so, but you don't have to have seen, I don't think, Daredevil season 2 to go into the Punisher. Okay, you won't know who Karen Page is, but okay, it's a reporter friend that he knows from his past. That's all you need to know, right? Black Panther is another asterisk one,
See,
because
that's
we
that,
basically get the origin of what the Black Panthers are, but it's not his first appearance. And so that's why I put that one on the list. All right, we'll see if you agree. Well, my next obvious one is Echo, which we talked about how we did a good job of bringing. They tell you everything you need to know. I have one final one. I want to see if you agree with this one or not, because I'm still not 100% sure on this. Hawkeye.
I thought about Hawkeye. That's a tough one. I don't know if I fully agree with that.
It is. It's a harder one for sure. Like they show, like when they talk about how he lost his hearing, there's clips of things from the
Hmm.
previous installments, and there's a lot of references that Kate has to the first Avengers movie, where she, discovered Clint and began to idolize him. Not to mention Kingpin, like in the his. So like, but at the same time, they show you those clips and they tell you Kate idolizes him, and they've told you there's a big bad behind the tracksuits and behind Echo, and
Hmm.
oh, that's him. That's the guy I've been talking to you. That's talking to you about. That's the big guy. It's the Kingpin. So I don't know. Asterisk next to that one. Can you think of any
Yeah,
other ones off the top of your head?
no, I was looking at my letterbox. Just and pretty much almost everyone you named, I kind of agree with that. Like I said, I think I'm against you on Hawkeye. I think that's a little bit of a bridge too far for
I
me.
accept that. I accept that.
But I did, one of the first ones I did think about was Black Panther, because it's one of those like origin, not really origin, but even though introduced in Civil War, you don't need to necessarily watch Civil War in order to appreciate Black Panther.
Yeah, and you could maybe make the same argument for Spider-Man: Homecoming, maybe,
Hmm.
but with Iron Man's presence there, I'm like, I don't know. Like having Iron Man be in it, which granted he's not much, but plus Foggy and stuff. I
There's
put it
enough.
on the line of nah, you need a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, so good question. I like it.
Yeah, that was a fun one for sure. All right, next up from Phil. Do we think the Fantastic Four cast will finally get announced this year, or are we all
Yes.
just waiting to be disappointed yet again? Yeah, I agree. In fact, I thought it would be San Diego. Snell said D23, right? But
Yep. So
if
we'll see
I
which
could
one.
be misremembering those. But regardless, yeah, I think we're all on board that by the end of 2024, we're going to know who our Fantastic Four is.
Either way, I win.
Indeed.
That one.
Sticking with the FF, from Josh, do we think that the Fantastic Four movie is going to take place on the MCU's Earth or in a different universe? So on the Sacred Timeline or in a different universe?
This has been a fascinating one that we have seen so many different, like, rumor mill talking about where are the Fantastic Four going to be a team out of time. They actually they actually existed in the 60s, and then somehow, Reed probably experimented with something, then all of a sudden disappeared and then reappear into the current day at that point. I would think that would be an interesting. There's a lot of just weird stuff in the sense of if you put them back in time. Now I know the other day, different universe. I don't know. I think that I don't know about how I feel about different universe. I'm not necessarily sold on them coming in from a different universe.
Yeah, I could see them coming from a different universe, but I think the bulk of the movie is going to take place on the Sacred Timeline universe.
Mhm.
I don't think we'll be hanging out in a different universe the whole time. It'd be an interesting angle if we did. It'd be a way to get us to care about another Earth if they did that. But
Yeah.
I don't see that being the way it goes. All right, from Omari Daniels. Do you think there's a benefit to watching the MCU in chronological order, or should it always be done by release date?
Um, Brent, this was your first time doing it, so
It
I'll let you
was.
take the lead on that one.
Provided you've seen it before, yes, I do think there's a benefit to it. Like Black Widow, especially, I think like that's like my poster child now at this point. Like I think it. I don't get me wrong, I love the movie when I got to see it, but I think it slots into where it actually goes so much better than seeing it out of time and the way it was released. That said, I would not show somebody, a first time person who's like, I want to go all in, show me everything. We're going to do this. We're going on this journey. I would not put them in chronological order because stuff gets revealed through credit scenes or whatever. It
Hmm.
can throw things off. And I would just stick with the release order at that point.
Yeah, I did have a friend of mine. They were having their son get into watching the Marvel movies, and he asked me my advice, and I said, because he asked me that exact question, I said, first timers need to do it in a release order. It'll it then go back and do chronological, just because like you need to kind of see exactly, because there is some messiness with chronological order outside of like post credits things. Like certain things just weren't figured out until later, which is fine. It is what it is. But yeah, first time watchers, do it in release order. After that, have some fun with chronological order.
It's definitely fun. So if you're someone who knows all the movies, but you've never done it like I hadn't, go through it. It's fun. Amari also says, also, Brent, how excited are you that the Chiefs are going back to the big game for another year? Did you already take off so you can go to the game? I don't have that kind of money. I don't have
Vegas, baby, Vegas.
I don't have that kind of. We call that talking about the Apple Vision Pro and the people who buy it. That's FU money. I don't have FU money, so no, I am not going.
Apple Vision Pro is FU money.
That's FU money. I don't have that kind of money to go to it. But yeah, you got to understand. Like I've liked the Chiefs forever, but growing up, if they made it to the playoffs, that was a huge deal. Like that was their equivalent of like a successful season was they made it to the playoffs, but they didn't ever make it out of that first round. They didn't do that. No, they just they made it and they were out, right? But in the last counting this year, there's 6 years in a row they make it to the AFC Championship game, and 4 out of 5 they make it to the Super Bowl. And that, again, is including this year, with 2 of those Super Bowl being wins. You know, they have an opportunity for a third one, second in a row next week, or I guess in about 10 days. Yeah, I am still really excited. And I know I get why people are starting to turn on them. They're like, oh, they're just the new Patriots. We're seeing them do whatever. I get it. But until some kind of cheating scandal comes out, I don't care. Go Chiefs.
It's what happens every time. If you get a perennial that suddenly rises up and keeps on showing up, it becomes the cool thing to do is hate the now one on top. So.
It is pretty absurd that their quarterback is still not 30 years old and he's going to his 4th Super Bowl. That is pretty absurd. Compare it with absolutely one of the best tight ends in the entire game in history. And I'm not saying the best, but one of the best. Yeah, they're a good team. They're going to win games. And you know what? This was their quote unquote down year. This was supposed to be the down year. And oh, look, they're still going to the Super Bowl. And yeah, that's pretty sweet. So
it is. So good for you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Enough of the sports ball. Andrew, with the return of Bullseye and Daredevil Born Again, do you think it will be rewritten as Daredevil Season 4 or still remain as a soft reboot? I think we do know the answer to this already.
I think it's a Season 4 with an asterisk.
It's basically Season 4. Like we at this point they've said like no, we're going back, we're doing it over, we're picking up where we left off on Daredevil. We on the Daredevil shows from Netflix, we've seen enough evidence that that's exactly what they're doing. Not to mention they've put those shows in the sacred timeline. At this point, it feels like they're just not calling it Season 4 because that changes things as far as how much money people can get when you do a 4th season of a show, new seasons of a show. So there might be elements of it that are soft reboot, like if Vanessa being recast, or any other recastings. But in general, as I told my wife, it's basically Season 4. So she doesn't know everything, she hasn't seen everything, but I told her it's basically Season 4.
Yeah, I'll stick with my thing, Season 4 with an asterisk.
From Snell, if Foggy and Karen are still killed off, does it make it somewhat better if that's an on-screen death?
Yes.
100% yes. Absolutely.
It gives them more of like the idea of like, okay, people can still disrespecting the character. At least you had the common decency to let him be killed on screen.
Is it just because the character dies? I don't think that's disrespecting the character.
Well, it
all depends on what they do with it, how they do it. We may still see them die and come back. They could be snapped. We've talked about that.
You also know if Karen dies, we get the constant conversation of we just fridged a character.
I mean, context depending, potentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to see context before I jump to that, because just because a female character dies doesn't make it fridging. But if the purpose of it is to motivate the male character, then okay, yes, that's fridging. But can you just like let's say they die in the snap, like if we get scenes of Daredevil from the pre-snap, during it, and then post-blip. I was talking about this with someone on Threads the other day. I've thought about this a lot. I want to see Matt's reaction to the snap and what it was like for him.
We know he survived it.
Yeah, we know he survived. So what must it be like for him? And but yeah, like they're coming back, and if they were to die again, would that suck? Sure. But it's so much better doing it that way than saying we killed him off screen. You know, doing it off screen is such a worse way, especially like that. I get where people say it would feel like a slap in the face. I don't know that I would entirely agree, but I understand the emotion of that. This is so much better, even if they were to. I hope they don't though. Keep them around for the duration of the show.
I thought of something very wrong to say, but I'm going to say it anyways.
Okay.
It probably got a little quieter for him.
Well, it probably did, and I want to see
Just saying.
happen. So we'll find out. But yeah, that was all the questions. So thank you to everybody for sending those in.
No,
A reminder, you don't have to wait for me to post about it. Just anytime, send them to me.
Brent just likes looking at questions. It gets.
I do. I love getting questions. It's fun.
Yes. So keep them coming in. Even send it to me. We'll get it in there one way or another. Send it by carrier pigeon.
That'll be challenged, but you're up to it.
Yep. Hey, you know what? Hey, whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes.
All right. So let's take our last ad break before we get into Fact or Fictions for this week and our new comic book club. So this is our last ad break for the evening. We don't get to choose when ads come on. They can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So last week, we got a double dose of Mr. Snell. So let me pull up those from last week. Well, I think I might actually have a response for one of them. Or at least a PS to something he kind of inspired me for one of his predictions. All right, here we go. Number 1, Daredevil will get a new costume in Daredevil Born Again. 86% said fact, 14% said fiction. Number 2, Professor Xavier will return in X-Men 97 Season 1. 100% say fact. And then 3, Deadpool and or Wolverine will be recruited by someone to set up secret wars in a credit scene. 47% said fact, 53% said fiction. That was a close one.
Okay. So what do you have for us this week? Actually,
All right.
we have one from DC Outlaw. Do you want to do his first?
Let's do that one. Let's do that one, yeah.
All right. So DC Outlaw's Fact or Fiction was, by the end of the year, Marvel will announce a season 2 of an existing live-action show. By the end of the year.
So
I'm going to say fact
the
on
year,
this one.
Marvel will announce a season 2 of an existing live-action show.
I mean, I think Secret Invasion 2 is a lock. So I'm saying fact. No, right now, today, Miss Marvel or Moon Knight are my front runners. Post the Marvels, I'm going to say Moon Knight is the front runner for the most likely to get a season 2.
Yeah, I'm 51%. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll say I will say fact, but it's like 51%.
Just barely, just edging over the line.
Just barely at this point. So it's kind of hard to read the tea leaves on that one. So, all right. So let's see which one I'm going to go with. All right, my first one. Mephisto will not appear. Mephisto will not appear in Agatha: Coven of Chaos, but he will be specifically mentioned as existing in the MCU.
So Agatha will mention him, but we won't see him.
Correct.
Agatha the show will mention him, but we won't see him. I'm going to say fact just because it'll be fun.
Yep, it will be. We will get it. Mephisto confirmed, speculating, but never seen
including
him.
From me. Like, just to be clear, I was speculating about Mephisto too. We're all looking at that fly on the window or whatever. It's like,
yeah, that's Mephisto.
Yes, I want it to happen, so I'm saying fact.
Okay. All right. I'm going to save one of them I was going to do. I'll save it for next week because it'll be more appropriate as we march towards Madam Web. All right. This one's being a little cheeky. The Blade video game will release before the MCU Blade movie. I've been having that one for like a month.
I wish I knew more about video game lead times. I just don't follow I know the 2 Spider-Man games had 5 years between them. I don't follow gaming news enough on that. I'm gonna say fiction, but that's funny. Credit to you.
Sorry, but it was too hard not to. When I saw that come out, I said, as soon as I saw that trailer, I was like, what are the chances that this game actually beats out the actual movie coming out?
I'm still hoping they release it on PlayStation because I don't have an Xbox, and I'm not buying an Xbox for this game. But side tangent now. if Xbox wants to, if Microsoft wants to, they could put Xbox Cloud now on Apple products, like through the in the
That's
App
true.
Store, and
I
that could
do
be an
have that.
avenue for me. I could get Xbox Cloud for a month and play the game. That would be an avenue for me. So
I do
hopefully that
enjoy playing
happens.
it on my. I do enjoy playing the cloud on my phone. I do enjoy that.
I
Um,
I, I
uh,
haven't experienced it.
all right, my last one. So this is kind of tagging off of what Snell did last week about Daredevil's new suit. I'm gonna call out what suit. I'm gonna take my shot.
The '90s black
So
one.
what's that?
No, go ahead. I was just taking a
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Daredevil will don a version of the Shadowland suit in Daredevil Born Again.
Mm. Kind of hoping you'd say the '90s black suit when he was all
No,
extreme,
I
claiming
don't.
Matt Murdock was dead.
I do like the black armor. That would be a choice. That would be a real choice. But I think he's gonna don a version of the Shadowland suit.
It is a good one. It is a good one. I'm going to say fact because it's more likely than not we will see more Daredevil costumes because that's
Mhm.
what they do. Um,
Yeah, I'm a fact as well.
I may have to add to my fact or fictions because I think I got one related to that as well. So
I would just build off of Snell's idea.
yes, we're just that's how it works. It's building off of it. So I got to yes.
Gotcha. All right. And but yeah, I will post all those on Sunday afternoon. So let your voices be heard. And Brent, let us bring back the illustrious return of Comic Book Club.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It has. It's been probably about a month since we concluded it. Almost a month with the Punisher. So the listeners voted, and we are looking at Old Man Logan, starting with Wolverine, issue number 66, with part 1 of Old Man Logan. So let me say right off the bat, what I enjoy about some of these kind of, as we are theming this as alternative futures, I enjoy just kind of seeing the the Marvel characters, like who survive, what they look like, who they are. That's what I really like about these, just kind of seeing how strange we get.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one definitely does get strange. I mean, for starters, Logan's hair is nothing like what we normally see it as, right?
Yeah.
But I actually, the first real thing I want to mention is Steve McNiven's art on this, like his pencils. Good Lord. They are incredible. Like, this whole book is just gorgeous from start to finish.
Oh yeah, the pencils. You got McNiven's pencils. You've got
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Vines doing the inks, and then
Maury Hollowell is the color. Like, they
oh my
all
God, I
just
think
crushed it.
Hollowell just with McNiven, they just that whole combo of the team with ink, pencils, color, absolutely just they're firing on all cylinders.
I think for me, like, yeah, it's fun. I mean, fun's maybe not the right word, but it's fun to see like what Logan is doing, and they kind of tease it. It's like, oh, the fall of the superheroes, the villains won, a
Hmm.
few survived and are in hiding. This is Logan's story, right? I'd be curious to know what's going on with some of the others, and we'll find out a little bits and pieces. But at one point, they referenced the Hulk gang as being here, and keep in mind, yes, I've read this before, so like I knew this was
Yeah.
coming, but just like if you haven't read it before, the Hulk gang is here. You haven't seen them yet. You don't know what you're in for, and it's three children of Bruce Banner, all
Yeah, I think it's the
Hulks,
grandchildren.
or grandchildren, sorry, and they are in a Fantastic Four car, and I think just the visuals of that I just start laughing when I see it.
Oh yeah, they painted over in green like dead and forgotten banners, and then unforgiven.
Yep.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
they're basically running the whole Badlands at that point. And as earlier, we see Logan is married, hasn't basically popped his claws since that fateful day. We don't know what happened. I mean, you and I know what happened,
Sure.
and we'll get to that point. But he's a family man now, and I love it. He's like they don't have their wrench, and the banners are coming, and they say, I'm not going to sell my kids' toys, and they come up, and I almost thought like it was such a cool sequence when one of the Hulks is going up and say, what are you trying to do? You think I'm gonna you're gonna
The big one too.
be a tough, yeah, be a tough guy. We already know who you are and everything like that, and we see that awesome splash page of him popping his claws and
So
killing one of
good.
the Hulks, just to find out it was just in his mind.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's such a good moment as well, and it's just that page is like I just stared at it. Just just absolutely stared at it. And nope, unfortunately, that's just all in his head, and he just lets himself take a beating from the Hulks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and they basically said, fine, this is your freebie at this point. Next time, double the rent at that point. But while he's healing, he gets a visit from an old friend. And who is this friend?
Yeah, Clint Barton Hawkeye shows up, and I love like the line of the issue is, "Oh, it doesn't look so bad to me." And Logan says, "Well, you're blind, Hawkeye, so of course it doesn't look bad." Absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Clint shows up, which is funny because like I don't think of them in the present as like friends. Right?
Correct. Yes.
But this is an alternate future. We don't know what they've gone through together necessarily, and so it really works for that.
Yeah, and so he says he's got a job that can pay some big money that'll pay the rent at that point. So, Logan's not left with any kind of choice. Says goodbye to his wife, says goodbye to his kids. And Hawkeye has some sweet wheels he's got going on there that the blind man is driving. So that says a lot right there. But what car is he driving?
The Spider-Mobile.
Yep.
It's like, is this really the Spider-Mobile? And there's webbing on it. Yeah.
Yep.
Peter Park car.
Yep. So they are going on a very long journey. 3,000 miles to go to do this kind of delivery job. And as the issue ends, Hawkeye's saying, "Get ready for the ride of your life." And yes, Hawkeye is driving.
Yep, pretty much. Yep. And we get a map of the different areas and stuff like that the United States has been turned into, like Hulkland, formerly the Abominations territory, the Kingdom of the Kingpin, Doom's Lair, the President's Quarter, like these different, and then some of the cities, it's like, there's stuff like Indianapolis or Detroit, sure, but there's also the Negative Zone opening, or
Osborne City.
Haven and Osborne City, Land of the Creole Gang. Like,
hey, look, there's Otisville.
I enjoyed looking at just this simple map.
Hey, you know what? It'll at least pinpoint them where they're on this journey. So
yes.
But all right, well, we will continue our journey through Old Man Logan with issue 67 next week. And all right, volume 201, a quick one, ladies and gentlemen. But I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for post credits. We got one more little thing to discuss. And but Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, Brentak Prime on the socials, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, wherever. But Threads is where I'm posting the most for sure. Yeah.
So, and you can find me on most of the socials at Chris.Balga. You can follow this show on the only social, Twitter at that point, at Marvel 8 Podcast. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, we want to thank our sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. And you can, if you want to provide feedback, ask questions, feel free to DM us on any of the accounts. Email me personally, DM Brent, tweet at us, threads us. I don't even know what they call it on Threads. They just call it
they just call it posting, yeah.
Gotcha. So add us there. At that point, we'll get your discussion, question, factor, fictions, everything on there. And just continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, Geek Ultimate Alliance network feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcatchers of podcasts. At that point, we greatly appreciate it. All right, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent. So this was going to be in the rumors segment, so we kicked it down to post credits. So we have coming from the Cosmic Circus, they have some interesting They have an interesting update of what their sources are saying when X-Men 97 is going to release, and when are they saying they're going to be releasing?
Spring 2024, and that's as tight as they get. They don't even pin it down to a month. So,
they kind of do. They do. They say,
do they? Well, when I read through it, I only saw spring.
Yep. So. They say they will. Their sources have told them that it will premiere mid to late March.
Okay.
Of 2024.
All right. You're right. I missed that. So mid to late March. That's not that far away. It's really not. I mean, if this is accurate, we'll have this before Deadpool comes out.
Yep, and it is confirmed to have 10 episodes at that point. They have already done the voice work for season 2 as well, so we already know we're at least getting one more season with it at that point. I mean, I think you and I are both. I have finished binging all the seasons following the Geekverse guys doing their Patreon reviews of the seasons at that point, as well as Mr. Hines on the Animation Nation. So I am looking forward to this. You know, the nostalgia kick is going to be good. I love it that they've got the voice actors back, the potential of some of the new characters that we know are rumored back in. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that it's going to be, you know, just some good old fashioned. We don't have official X-Men in the MCU yet, really, outside of, you know, we've seen Beast, but, you know, really a proper show of something at that point back again with the X-Men. Yes, if this is what I get for the X-Men right now while I have to wait for live action reintroduction, then so be it.
I really just have two demands.
All right.
One, it doesn't have to be episode 1, but at some point in these 10 episodes, I need to hear previously on X-Men. 2, they better use that theme song. They better. I don't care if they change the visuals, but that theme song better just be there as is.
The original, not as they started every so often, like kind of revamping it during
Right. I want the original.
No, you want to hear previously on, and then you got X-Men.
That's right. That's what I want. No, I'm looking forward to it. I did rewatch season 1, and I've sporadically watched other episodes, and I'll probably watch the last couple episodes between now and March. But realistically, I'm not going to get through them all in that time frame. I did listen to what the Geek First guys did, like they're all the ways through, and you know, Hines, like you said, went through it on Animation Nation, and so I had those. So I kind of used those as my rewatch to like remind me of stories and stuff like that.
I'll tell you what, there had been, especially the later seasons, it got interesting. It got interesting.
Yeah, that it did.
But yeah, so I think this will be a return to form. I'm looking forward to seeing Magneto lead the team, harkening back to the comics at that point, especially with that retro costume he's going to be wearing. He's going to be rocking out.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool.
So, but all right, well, we will see you all next week for episode 202. The blueprint is coming. It's our penultimate episode before Madam Web. So we will catch you next week. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.